Welcome back, y'all. On today's episode, we're talking with two voices that help shape the future of Adidas Golf. Dylan Moore, the Senior Director of Design, and Shaun Madigan, the Director of Apparel. This episode goes deep into the evolution of the brand from reintroducing the Originals line to redefining what performance and luxury can look like in golf, to why the right footwear can start the conversation before you even hit a shot. You'll hear what goes into every detail, from color palettes to fabric choices to product drops, and how Adidas balances storytelling, sport, and style in a category that's changing fast. It's a reminder that golf fashion isn't just about what you wear, it's about how it makes you feel when you show up. Let's get into it. I think for me, and you talked about a little bit at the beginning, my first touch point meeting a lot of the team was 2 years ago at Gearhart, which is one of my favorite golf courses in Oregon. A lot of people talk about Bandon, and I'm like, you guys are missing out on so many gems. Coastal, around Portland and up and down the 5, really. So a lot of people fly in Eugene and just go straight to Bandon. But yeah, Gearhart's one of those gems. We had an awesome photo shoot down there. We got rained out, but the team was still able to save the edit. But yeah, just to see how much the brand has evolved in just that little bit of time. When did you first join the Adidas Golf team?
Oh, you're aging me. First off, I've never had the chance to play Gearhart, but I hear it is phenomenal. So maybe someday we can venture up there and experience it together. But yeah, I've been around since 2002. Came into this organization when Adidas Golf still owned TaylorMade. I've seen a lot of change throughout the golf industry, and I don't think I could be more proud to be part of this brand and this organization, but also be part of the industry today, because I can tell you that the industry has evolved significantly from where I've started to where it is. And obviously, that's bigger than me, but it's pretty exciting to see how the game's growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to say it was 2 years ago, I put out a piece of content around the MC80. And just I think as a brand, I've always really respected your guys' ability just to try things. And that was the whole preface of what the video was. The MC80 is Adidas' version of just trying something new in an industry that has always felt really stale. And I feel like even just since that point, from collections and apparel and both footwear, they've had dramatic different pivots, again, just trying different things in the industry and always remaining relevant. If we go back a few years, just knowing where this conversation is going to lead around the Originals, when did when did the conversation, I guess, begin internally about reintroducing Adidas Originals Golf?
I could tell you in all of my time here, over 20 years here, whatever position I've been in, whether it was finance, marketing, as a sales representative, merchandising, or here in product creation, the number one ask that we have had from customer, consumer, ourselves is Originals. Not to take over, but we know the authenticity that the Originals trefoil plays to our game and to our brand. And I think our sport and our game really it's just an organic connection between the two. And obviously our brand, going back into the archives, has been there in the past. So I think that percolated a lot over the past 5 to 10 years. It started a bit more on the footwear side. On the footwear side, there was initiatives to embrace the styling of Stan Smith or Samba. And while that took place, it was done under our Badge of Sport logo. And then finally, again, within the past 5 to 10 years, the brand supported us and they said, let's go in with the trefoil. And then on apparel side, in the more recent days, we experimented with that in 2023 when we worked with the Bogey Boys team and brought that collection together with Macklemore himself. He was very, very intrigued by our archives. And knowing where he sits in culture and in music, the brand really kind of understood that. And that connectivity between our game, him and his own sense of style, and what the archives allowed us to entail, or access, I should say, that really was our kicking off point to say, we got to do more here with Originals in apparel specifically.
The thing that's super wild about that, so when people ask me just about why I started the Golf Projects ecosystem and page in general, I always told myself I was always really interested in the sport. And then style and fashion was always another interest. And I said, I'll just give myself 6 months, kind of see if anybody else is interested in this conversation that I don't feel like is having from a context standpoint. And the tipping off point was that collab at the US
Yeah.
Open around the Hypebeast event. For whatever reason, I think it was just the US Open coming back to California. I think what
Yeah.
Hype Beast did specifically with Hype Golf in the event, and then like the cherry on top was the collab that you guys had with Bogey Boys. Like all of those conversation points led to like that biggest. I can't even remember how many views it was. It was a couple 100,000 views on the golf drops. And that Bogey
Okay.
Boys collab was like the lead of the conversation. And ever since then, it's just been kind of like a rocket ship in terms of people that have had interest in the conversation that I'm having, and then just like building this discovery platform around all these different brands and collections that are dropping. So it's funny that that feels like an also like mutual like kickstart to how we got to where we are now. To that point, like reaching back into the archives, like there's always high expectations when you
Right.
have those like reach back moments. Like, what does the approval process actually look like? Like, who has to believe in the vision to bring something like that back forward?
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a great question. It's a fair question because we are a large global brand of Adidas, and Adidas Golf is a component of that. So there is a lot of protection of what we do and when we do it with our brand marks. I think the first thing that we needed to do was establish a clear why, really kind of hit home as to why. And what you just spoke to of that moment in time with the US Open back at LACC, having this Bogey Boys moment in time, really, again, like originals for us, we are a sports brand. And I like to say we are the original sports brand, but we also are the culture born from sport, right? And when you look at originals, it speaks to the culture of the game. It speaks to the lifestyle aspect of the game that's coming to life more and more every day out on the course or in all walks of life, even on streets, how golf is impacting fashion on streets. So we really kind of had to state that, but identify what we wanted to do with it. And having the opportunity to be inspired by our own brand and our own historicals, going back into the archives of where we have been, whether it be that late 80s era or even a little bit of the early 90s, that right there was, I mean, that was kind of almost solidifying to us. Like we've been here before, the look and feel, it's relevant today. And it gives us, again, an opportunity to speak into the culture aspect of the game and our brand.
Going back to the why, when you're trying to define it and like articulate it as a group, is that just solely an internal group, or are you like looking externally through ambassadors or athletes to help kind of connect the dots?
I think that's a great point. If your why is strong enough, it'll naturally come to life through the consumer. And I think when we look back as to the launch of this back in the beginning of April at that incredible event, I argue it's the best one of the year. When we look at that and what the conversation was about it, I think the consumer got it. Whether it was the
hmm
chatter in the audience or the crowd, the patrons, if you will, or even through the social media channel, um, they saw the heritage, they saw the archive, retro look and feel, but they obviously could tell that we've modernized it. Even the athlete that it went on, uh, as young, handsome, and athletic as he is, gave us that fresh, modern look and feel while playing into the archives that we brought to life.
That was a good um, connection point, because I wanted to talk about Ludwig and like the importance that he played in being able to be like the model, if you will, of the collection. Just because like you checked all the boxes in terms of he has the look, he's young, he's athletic, he's also a baller too.
He is. He is.
He checks all the right boxes. Like, how excited was the team to be able to leverage his talent and his personality for the collection?
It was awesome. It was fantastic. And he's been extremely receptive and supportive of it as well. I think just, the efforts he made throughout the week, whether it was through media or, on the course in the media, he was asked about it and he spoke to it, in a very confident, self spoken manner. So he's a tremendous brand ambassador. We love him in that part. One thing we wanted to do, we wanted to make sure it was a full head to toe collection and
hmm
activation. And, having the ability to bring it to life on his headwear in the front of cap and the sports marketing world and the tour world, that's very, very critical. So it was really just the stars aligned with him. Um, and his swagger walking up that fairway. It's pretty cool to see. So we've enjoyed working with him on it, and it's been fun.
What was there a piece in the sampling process, either footwear or apparel, that you got in hand? You were like, this is the vision. This is this is like the coming to life moment that we all had talked about 5 years prior.
Yeah.
Was there any one item or a few that you're like, this is the one?
I go back to the plaid trouser. That trouser was directly from the archives, and we modernized it through fit, through material. But the detailing of it, whether it's just shaping up the pockets or the plaid itself, the coloring, even, you could tell it was a direct tie back to archives. And if you look at that exact trouser that we were looking at in the late 80s, you will see the similarities coming to life. That, to me, when we got the first proto of that in, it was all right. We've got it. We're on to something here. And that was very intentional. That piece was definitely on the mood board. It was on the wall. It was something we kept going back to. Even from the images that we had of it being worn on tour, the swagger that was, worn with, we wanted to recreate that. And I think we did a tremendous job of doing exactly that.
Was that mood board just filled with archive content from the brand, or was there any like external outside of the brand, like inspiration points that you guys pulled from?
I would say it was heavily looking at our own archives and our own heritage. But I mean, inspiration for us is a wide variety that we narrowed down. So there were definitely images outside of our own, past, our own DNA, that we wanted to ensure that we infused in. So there was a component of that, but primarily it was us.
Mm-hmm. And then from like a performance standpoint, when you have access to a guy like Ludwig who can provide like critical feedback in terms of performance, when you're
Yeah.
in like the mood boarding sessions and you're trying to have like a specific look, but also knows it needs to perform a certain way, like when does he start to enter the conversation in terms of like trial and testing through the sampling phases?
Love that question too, because so often I think performance is overlooked. It's overlooked in there's so many options when it comes to the golf fit, right? And everything we build here is built to perform. It has performance ingredients. It has performance, whether it's stretch, moisture wicking, breathability, or warmth, whatever it is, our product must perform. And that's no exception for the originals range. While I speak of it being a cultural movement, a lifestyle movement, it's still, when you look at the roots of that product and what we offered, it's performance. And that was one thing from the get-go. Even before we had our initial conversation with Ludwig, we needed to ensure that it performs. And once we got it to him, we showed it to him in February of 2024 was the first time
Wow.
he saw samples of it. He could see differences in the material, but he also could see the performance elements of it. And then we were very thorough going into this. We met with him. You'll love this story. We flew to Texas the Sunday before Augusta and fit him one last time to ensure everything was perfect. Everything was dialed. We brought Pep product back. We tailored it to just make sure that we had all the little tweaks dialed in one last time. And then we went back to the event with it in hand and delivered it to him the Tuesday before. So he had time to wear the product prior to the event and become comfortable with it. We chatted with him. We had calls with him on it. And he was in. He was loving what he had.
That's so awesome. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because I think it still felt like Adidas, which is at the end of the day, like that's the goal. But when he walked out, you're like, like they definitely have something here beyond just like all the campaign, the originals, like drop content. Having him as like the lead, like that had to have been super special internally.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, 2024, that event a year prior, he set us up for a tremendous week this year. And, I think the golf world learned who he was a year ago at that event. And there was a lot of people that knew him prior to that. But that moment in time, 12, 13 months ago, that was very, very special for him and obviously for our brand. So just that buildup, it was really, really exciting for us.
In the product development process, like, was there anything that you guys were trying to pull from the archives that wasn't quite working out? And then on like the flip side, was there anything that you learned that was a surprise that actually like made its way through as a piece that surprised the team, becoming like a feature piece, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, it's we've worked with similar materials or this, iterations of the material in past in performance, but we were really focusing on materials that were true to the archives, true to the heritage of what Adidas Originals Golf has provided, um, but performed. So whether it's a PK or a mercerized, material, those for us they're separate from performance and they need to be. So I think we were very pleased when we went down the path and saw what we have and what we can offer. It allowed us to build on it in future seasons. Insights that we've heard, especially when you talk about that pocket polo. It's a mercerized material, just got that soft, buttery, almost like a cooling sensation. And that's been fantastic for us. It's something we're going to build on and continue with in the originals range. I think also from a styling perspective, we've had some fun with some silhouettes on both the women's and men's range in the styling of them. There's been moments of, this is a bit aspirational, especially when we look into the future seasons coming. It's a bit aspirational, but it's allowed us to push the limits and take some risks or levels of boldness that we don't ever do every day in the performance range, which there's reasons for that as well.
Yeah, and I think, like, when I was looking at the collection too, when it first got announced, like you already mentioned it, but the pleated pants, like the argyle knits and stuff, like there's a mix of like cashmere, which is really interesting too. Like all the things that I think from like signifiers say premium and like luxury. Like what is your stance on, um I guess in the context of a golf apparel today, where you stand on like luxury golf apparel? Is it still like you still
Yeah.
speak to the high standards from a performance standpoint, and
Right.
because we've lived in, like, this polyester era for a really long time, it's almost
Yeah.
like reintroducing materials that have already existed for a really long time, just modernizing them in a way to ensure that they perform up to our standards.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, fashion's come a long way. To see golf inspired fits on the runway at Paris Fashion Week, that's exciting. That's incredible. But it also means the pieces of the pie are more diluted. Um, there's more in the game than ever before. And take your angle at it, have your why on it, bring to life what's true to you and your brand. And I think that's one thing with originals, like doing a cashmere blend that is absolutely authentic to us in that range. And doesn't mean we can't do it in performance, because we will be doing it in performance as well. But there's just it gives us opportunity to further our horizons, and invest in the product that we are creating in a bigger way. Allow that the consumers shown us they will spend. They are willing to spend more, and they are spending more. And that doesn't mean just raise your price. You got to have
Mhm.
reason to raise your price. You got to have the quality there. You got to have the material, the design to be there. But I think that's one thing when we went into originals, it wasn't a price conversation. It's what's best for the product. It's what's best for the direction of this collection.
Mhm. And then from a styling standpoint, were you guys actively thinking about how does original stack up against, like, Ultimate 365? Like, is there a union that we can make between 2 really successful collections?
I think the team would state the one thing they continue to hear from me is not comparing this to performance. This is originals. Do what's best for originals. You have an
Mm.
originals lens on. You do not have a performance Ultimate 365 lens on. And does it happen naturally? Because we've been working in that for so long. Our learnings, our experiences come through that, and it's okay for us to have that because it's knowledge, and knowledge is power, right? But it was not an iteration of. It was not make it better than. It was build to what we need in originals and stay true to what we need in originals. And if insights from what we've gained and learned in Ultimate 365 or just the performance category overall helped us get to that, it's okay to embrace that. But we truly, even from a commercial side, don't speak to this like it's performance. Don't filter it, or put it through the lens of performance. This is a cultural based collection
Mhm.
that's true to what's happening in the game today.
That's awesome. I feel like even though, like, obviously nobody had a clue what was going on from, I guess, like, our standpoint, when we were in Montreal last year,
Yeah, yeah. President's
That
Cup.
was yeah, that was heavily around Ultimate 365, and just from a collection standpoint where Adidas was headed on the performance side. And I think to your point, like, that conversation was very performance driven, and the content, the way that everything was, how it showed up in social and all the other, like, digital landscapes, it feels like exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Was there like, how difficult was that just to articulate in the team internally, just to make sure that you guys locked in on that vision?
First off, that's good to hear that you felt that and saw that. So thank you for that. I think everybody involved with bringing originals to life and that's still working on it now um, knows the opportunity it brings to us and knows, it is not intended to be massive. It's not intended to overtake the lion's share of our business. It's small, it's incremental, it's tight, it's focused. But with that, I think everybody knows the level of importance it brings to us, to our brand, and to our overall business. So there's really definitely some very specific curation or protection around it, and we're going to continue to focus and stay true on that.
Mhm. And I was at, last week's major too, and there was a couple of pieces from Originals in the merch tent, and there was just huddles of people feeling and
Yeah,
touching because I think that might have been the first time that they were able to experience the product in hand.
yeah.
Like, what are the conversations like with your partners and retailers and stuff? Like, are they super fired up with just a new, like, category of an already successful brand in Adidas Golf?
Another fantastic question. Yes, but I will say this from a distribution perspective, it is beyond protected. It is not for everyone, and
Mhm,
that's not us, trying to judge who can have it, who can't. But it's not intended to be a massive part of our business. It's meant to be for our better golf specialty partners, and really globally, positioned in the manner that's telling the story and true to what we're trying to bring to life. So going back to your point a few minutes ago, that consumer understands the why of what
mm.
Adidas Golf is doing with this originals capsule.
Mhm. Which I think, again, like, the everyday consumer doesn't understand. I've been in, like, brand and marketing my entire, like, professional career, so understanding the where and how it shows up is just as important from a narrative perspective, ensuring that the
Absolutely.
positioning of what you're trying to achieve actually lands the right way.
Right.
And all of these, like, different connection points add to, again, like, the robust vision that you guys had 5 years ago, and it's just trickling out the way that it's supposed to.
No,
The other que
I completely agree with that. It's something that even us in product creation, we're very protective of that when it comes to commercial execution and distribution of this.
Mhm. Um, the other question I had is, like, and we kinda talked about it a little bit, but the like, there's a softness, you had mentioned too, there's a softness to, like, some of the pieces. Like, what are some of the smaller design cues, I guess, that matter most in making, the Originals line feel different?
So if you go and look at an assortment of Adidas Originals product, and that could be lifestyle, skateboarding, golf. If you look at the back neck hang tag or tag, I should say, the brand tag, across all of them from a tops perspective, you're going to see black or white from the other categories. In golf, it's green.
Mm,
It's true to our game, that green. It's also true to the Adidas Originals brand and the heritage of it. So the brand understood that, and the brand gave us an exception on that. So when you're looking at the inside detail of it and you see that green label, that's golf. That's a if you know, you know little nod. And I think those are the things that as our originals designer walks by me now, those are the things that he was really specific on. Like what are those little nods or hits of golf that we can bring to life? Um, you can even go and look at the bottoms, for example. In the bottoms, we have a stretch gripper waistband. You're not going to find that in anything else outside of Originals Golf. Stretch provides comfort in the golf swing based upon all the motion that he or she may have. And the silicone gripper helps keep that polo tucked in, which is just commonplace today, but we needed to ensure that we infused it. So little things like that are points of difference that what we see across the other categories and originals.
Mhm. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's a hat tip to the performance side too, just to make sure that you're checking all the right boxes for this to actually make sense for golf.
Absolutely.
Is there In terms of like the outlook, I guess like any collaborations that you guys had in mind or any other like narratives that you really wanted to like unpack throughout the calendar year?
Around originals,
Mhm.
yeah, this year it's prioritizing us and prioritizing where we've been and bringing that back to market in a meaningful way. And I'm excited to that moment in time capsule that's coming later this year. That's going to be really exciting. That's going to push us even further. So 2025 is all about Adidas Golf Originals and where we sit today and bringing it back to marketplace. So excited about that and curious to hear your thoughts as well as the market's thoughts when that happens.
Yeah, for sure. What was one of your like favorite pieces, both in footwear and then the apparel side of it?
Ooh, good question. On the footwear side, I think the colors of the gazelles that have come to market have just been. I get hit up, but getting hit up for this product has been next level. And the
Yeah.
colors of the gazelle shoes that we've done in both men's and women's. I mean, I even copped a pair of the pinks for myself because it's just so fresh with the pink and the navy stripes. So those,
Mhm.
I really think the colors did a fantastic job there, and they're unique for golf. They're not colors that you see necessarily from the traditional gazelle shoes within the originals range. Um,
Mhm.
on the apparel side, I go back to that trouser.
Yep.
You know, it's been a minute since a plaid trouser has been out in market in a bold, meaningful way from us. And that one was the one that I have the late '80s sample that we found on a thrift site hanging here in the
No way.
office. Yeah, yeah. You want to see it?
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me take a look.
So this is it. This is what we found late night scouring through some old vintage sites. And I mean, if you felt the weight of this thing is extremely heavy, but you
Yeah.
can just see that little nod, little
I mean,
detail
it's
there.
aged really well too. That's
It
wild.
has single back pocket, but that little trefoil detail all throughout. It's heavy, it's warm,
That's so
uh,
insane.
but it's a pretty special piece. So finding that, having this, kind of as inspiration, but then seeing it come to life with a modern material, with the waistband, in the fit, in the pocket details, that was special. That was really special, and I have seen it worn out in the wild a few times, and that's pretty exciting to see as well.
Are you guys still digging around the archives looking for pieces on some of these sites still?
Absolutely. I think when you see us in the future, there are definitely nods to the archives. The initial collection, the initial drop was solely focused on that. I think what
Mhm.
we'll be doing in the future, I know what we'll be doing in the future, is archives, but pushing fashion, pushing the direction of where our brand is going, but also where we want to go with the brand DNA, but also with the golf twist on that as well. So you're going to see more excitement from us. You're going to see us pushing the limits more, giving both her and him options to really express themselves in a more meaningful way.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I think so. Like, I had a new segment too. It's called the fitting room, which is just like
Okay.
a rapid fire Q and
Yeah.
A where we basically like reveal some of your style instincts. So don't think too hard about it. Whatever
Okay.
first comes to mind. Some of them are specific to originals, but we'll have a little fun here.
Yeah.
The first one is if Adidas Golf Originals had a scent, what would it smell like? Fresh cut fairways or vintage leather?
Oh, damn. Who doesn't love the smell of a fresh cut fairway unless you maybe have an allergy to grass?
That'd be me.
Love that scent. But when it when it comes to what we're doing with archives and pushing fashion, I don't know, that leather plays a relevant part, with our accessories and the leathers that we're using there, uh, even in the footwear side. Maybe that's where I'd lean
Mhm.
to on that one.
Love it. Both have very distinct smells with resonate differently in people's minds. What's
Absolutely.
the first detail your eye goes to when someone walks into a room wearing golf apparel?
Ooh, selfishly, I'm a hat guy. I have a massive collection of hats. I've been a headwear fan since I was a little kid. Um, I think headwear is just a fun accessory, but it also is a great place to start a fit. But I think the thing that matters to me the most is someone that made an effort. If someone, is,
Mhm.
hey, I'm going to go play a golf round today, and I want to express myself. I want to look the part, and they put some ounce of effort into it. I applaud that. Whether it's my
Mhm.
style, their style, whoever's it is, I just appreciate those that enjoy the fashion component or element of the game.
To that note, what's one style rule you think golf should break more often?
Oh, that's fantastic. I love the opportunity to express yourself through fashion. I really do. And obviously, it's got to be done with intent. If you look like you just rolled out of bed and couldn't care less about what you're wearing, that's not where I'm going with this. But I don't know that, so often just a subtle little adjustment in the fit of a pant or the fit of a polo or how she pairs a layering piece over a dress. Those little nods can just make such a unique point of difference. And I think just the industry being receptive to that, the industry being
Mhm.
receptive to the opportunity to expand horizons. Uh, I fully support that. And I hope we see further iterations of that.
Awesome. Then the last one I got for you is the 70s or 80s archives or early 2000s streetwear.
Hey, I'm a classic guy right now. Don't get me wrong. I love streetwear and I'm often feeling the streetwear vibe. But you give me Mr. Arnold Palmer and in a cardigan, pushed up with a classic, saddle shoe, cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and just looking that, sun kissed vibe. I'll take that all day. He is my style icon when it comes to the game of golf, and that's something that I still, when I see myself out on the golf course, I think I probably play a bigger nod to that.
My DMs are flooded with the same questions. Where can I get a pole like this? Where can I get a pant like this? All
Yeah,
referencing like the 70s and 80s, which is cool.
love hearing that.
Um, and then the closing question that I ask everybody on their way out is what's the story behind the one item in your closet you'll never get rid of? And what does it mean to you? Could be specific to golf or golf adjacent.
Specific to golf, I have this Adidas sweater vest. It's navy. It has a knitted in three stripe detail down the front. It's a V-neck. It was probably one of the first pieces that I got as an employee of the brand 20 some odd years
Mm.
ago. And I still will rock it every once in a while to this day. I've got to be a little gentle with it. But the fit of it, the styling of it, it really kind of plays back to what you and I were talking about, just that classic look and feel.
Mhm.
And it's just something that I have held on to and I plan to continue to hold on to. So I think that's would be my answer on the golf side. Outside of that, man, I could go down a rabbit's hole. I'm sentimental. There's a lot of things that I still have from early days in my life. I mean, I still have my varsity jacket from high school back in the late '90s, and still fits me well. My daughters often have to debate as to whether or not they're going to take it from me, but yeah, I have a closet full of memories that I enjoy and I cherish.
That's amazing. No, I really appreciate it. Shaun, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm super pumped for you guys. Again, I think I've talked about it at nauseum on the channel, but I think what you guys are doing, both in product and in story, is really unique, especially with just the sheer size that you guys are, knowing that a lot of bigger brands usually move slower. You guys are still very much keeping a pretty significantly quick pace in the industry, which has been awesome to watch. And again, going back from Gearhart to where we are now, you would have thought that
Yeah.
that was a 10-year time gap, but it's only been 2 or 3 years. So it's just been insane and an absolute rocket ship to watch for sure.
Thank you, Ram, and I appreciate you recognizing that, and the support that you give to us or the opportunities that you give to us. So thank you for that. And it's not easy, man. It's a crowded marketplace, and there's many options for him and her, and we need to do what we can to be true to our brand of Adidas, and stand out a bit in that sea of sameness. So we work hard at it
Mhm.
every day, and hopefully more good things to come.
Amen to that. All right. I think something that I was just telling Shaun at the top of our call and then towards the end, I think one of the things that I've respected most from Adidas Golf specifically is creatively, like you guys have always been willing to try new things. And I think the expansion of which you guys have these different voices through athlete, through brand, and through ambassador is super unique, especially the ambassador side. I want to say 2 or 3 years ago when I first started the page, one of the things that I said that I loved about Adidas Golf was your guys' ability to use the ambassador voice through the brand lens and for it to come off in a way that I don't know, I guess spoke to consumers the best when you talk about some of these more prolific global brands. Um, like when you first started shaping, I guess, the creative for Adidas Golf and Adidas Golf Originals, I want to say, like what was the feeling or message that you hoped people would resonate with?
Yeah, I mean the message. I mean, I think for me the key is that Originals is such, the Adidas has such a big history, right? And so I wanted to make sure that it just made so much sense for the label to come into golf, but I wanted to make sure that we stayed true to the label, which is very representative of culture, of what's going on in culture around the world, right? Like in street culture and fashion, sneaker culture. That's what Original sort of stands for. So I think the time was right to bring it into golf of all the changes that's been going on in golf. I just want to make sure that we stayed true to the label, but also have that kind of relevant twist to golf.
And then when did you first start at Adidas, and then specifically in Adidas Golf too?
I started when I was like 10. I've been working for them for almost 30 years. I think uh, I have like two start dates, 1994, and my official full time start date was 1996. It's been
Mm-hmm.
quite a long time. I was up in Portland for most of that. Lived in Germany for a year or so. Worked in a small office in Spain for a little bit, but I moved down here in February of 2011 or 12
Mm-hmm. That's
to work
amazing.
in golf. Yeah.
So from that standpoint, again, talking with Shaun, like knowing that this conversation around Adidas Originals Golf started about 5 or 6 years ago, it's one thing to articulate it and define it through words. Like from your standpoint, when did you like really start to lock in mood board the visual identity of how you wanted the originals to show up in the golf category?
Yeah, I mean, we initially broke through by getting allowing footwear to come in. So we started with footwear and started with the Superstar, then the Stan Smith, and then the ZX was next, 2000. So how we were able to sort of get on board with that, because we've been trying to get it for a long time, and just through different reasons. Golf wasn't cool enough at the time. Golf wasn't, we wouldn't do it right. Why would someone want to wear a Samba on the golf course? I think it took a while for people to understand that this was very relevant. But
Mm-hmm.
so we started breaking through by bringing footwear in, and we kind of got on the bigger brand campaigns where they were really pushing Superstar. And so they wanted kind of every category, all categories, to start trying to take a take on what a Superstar could be. And so that's how we got in. So our first shoes were sort of those classic icons from the 70s, 60s, 70s. So it just felt natural that our first kind of collection probably represented kind of some of our archive pieces from that era.
Mm-hmm. And I like what is something, I guess, that most people don't realize about building a collection like this, like whether it's internal approvals or like the social, like the emotional labor that goes into making something like this meaningful. Saying that you guys were trying to get this through greenlit, I've been a part of organizations that are massive, and I know some of the internal approvals and just getting the right people in the room or on the call to starting the conversation. Like what is that like that most people on the outside wouldn't understand?
Yeah, I mean it's it's every company's different, every brand's different. We're a massive global organization, 26 some odd $1 billion brand,
Mm-hmm.
and golf is a very small part of that in the grand scheme of things. So I think like it's not that people didn't want it. It's just they were worried that is golf going to represent the label in the right way. So I think I think some of the changes that was happening in golf at the time, just like the massive growth in the game, the new kind of consumer coming into the game, the fact that skaters and just the streetwear people were coming into the game, the fact that fashion brands were taking influence from golf, inspiration, really helped them sort of understand that, okay, yes, golf not only gonna not hurt the label, it's gonna help grow the label. So I think that was a big hurdle.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, like when you're digging around the archives for the pitch process, like how do you know which products make sense in the pitch and then which products make sense to actually bring to life from a consumer lens?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we have such a big archive. It's crazy, right? You know, we go back 75 years of just amazing, iconic products.
Mhm.
There's so much to choose from. I think being selective is key, and kind of what are those really iconic, instantly recognizable Adidas silhouettes or styles was important to make sure that we're it's instantly recognized as Adidas originals. And then you start to talk about, okay, how does that relevant to golf or the golfer? Um, so we kind of went that way. And like I said before, like we were already in that era of the 70s and 80s in footwear. If you
Mhm.
saw what was going on with the brand, with sort of their Gucci collab, and
Yep.
original Gucci collab, there was all that was kind of picked from a certain era of the archive. So we really kind of honed in on that era and then started selecting the key pieces.
Was there in that process pieces that definitely got the approval, but you knew needed to wait, just as like this building factor, like you said, this core collection that releases, people will understand what we're trying to achieve, and then throughout the elongated process, these other products that we are super hyped about internally, but know we need to save and move them for future collections or future adaptions.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, so like, for example, you know, we have the Superstar, the Samba, really iconic pieces. We knew we wanted to bring in the Gazelle,
Hmm.
that, that kind of fit in that zone, from a footwear standpoint. But knowing that, like, what's the most iconic thing outside of maybe the, Stan Smith or Superstar is the track jacket, tracksuit, the
Yep.
Firebird tracksuit. So I knew we wanted to bring in a piece like that. Um, but how do we elevate it? That's another kind of thing that we had to think about. Like, yes, we need to stay true to the label, but we are golf. We want to make this sure that this is kind of premium and separate it from our inline business. We have to separate it from our inline performance business
Yeah.
and also just originals gear. So, how do we make sure that it performs on the golf course? How do we make sure that it's elevated from just a typical originals inline piece? So that track jacket, we made it in a premium Model material that's super stretch. If you look at the original Firebird jacket that's out there today, it doesn't have a whole lot of stretch. It's polyester.
Mhm.
We mix it with fibers that give it that premium touch and feel, but also the stretch that it needs to golf. And then we put it in like a quarter zip silhouette. So it's a little bit more related to a golfer versus like a full zip track jacket, so just things
Mhm.
like that. That's kind of the product that went through my head as we're starting to pick and select these pieces.
So those like internal heat checks, I don't want to cross contaminate just to make sure that you don't cross contaminate. Are there like any specific heat checks that you guys as an internal group go through? And then leverage like a Ludwig as an example to help with just making sure that from a performance standpoint, it meets his specific needs that'll work for the golf community?
Yeah, I guess that's somewhat of my job, right? Like, I look over, kind of all footwear apparel products. So I'm managing the team that does the performance products, but also the original products. And so I need to be
Mhm.
aware of what's going on in both ranges, and what we're building on one doesn't like cannibalize the other. If there's
Mhm.
there's only so many ways you can make a polo, so how do we make sure that those polos are different and relevant to each label? So on originals, that's really the tricky part, I would say, is making sure these products perform on the golf course, but not look or feel like a performance product. So they
Mhm.
have to have
Yep.
that kind of lifestyle finishing and tan feel, and the way it lays on your body. Otherwise, it's just going to feel like a performance piece with a trefoil on it. So that's kind of the
Yep.
real tricky.
No, that I mean, I think you nailed it. That is exactly what I talked to Shaun about. I was at the major that was last week, and there was a few pieces from the originals that were set up in your guys' section, and there was a clear differentiation between the two when you could see a performance product on one end and the originals product on the other. There was a big group of people that were touching and feeling the product because it looks different, it feels different, but it still has the performance nature, if you will. But it's just like tucked behind the curtain, which I think, again,
Yeah.
to your point, is really hard to nail, especially visually and just like functionally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, functionally is the function aspect and the hand feel is one thing, but also you mentioned it, the visual. I think if you look at our originals collection, it doesn't look like anything else. Definitely doesn't look like
Mhm.
our performance product, but I don't think it looks like much out there in the world of golf. That was definitely something that we wanted to do. That this is instantly recognized as something different, something new, even though it's coming from a lot of history.
Yep, yep.
So I think that was definitely something that we needed to keep in mind. Again, needed to stay true to the label. So you see those kind of really iconic pieces that maybe are inspired from other sports, but then we brought in kind of some archive pieces that were directly from our own history in golf as well. You know, golf, Adidas has been in golf since the 70s. So, we have quite a long history, even just in golf.
And what's interesting is I think obviously like when you're reviving products from the past, it's not just a design thing. Like you're also tapping into emotion, whether that's intentional or not. Is there, I guess, any like outside of feelings, like what do you want people to notice between the performance side of things and the original side of the category?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the original side, I mean, the performance side, I hope and feel like, you know, we do even on the performance side kind of have a spectrum of product, like super technical, innovative, almost equipment like products,
Hmm.
you know, all the way down to this definitely performs, but is a more versatile kind of piece that you wear on and off the course, hopefully. So we, even on that side, we have, you know, quite a spectrum of products. But I would say on that side, most importantly, we want that to perform. We want it to perform. We want it to make the athletes perform better. We want it to, you know, I think the best products in golf almost you don't notice them, right? Like, so you can just focus on
Hmm.
the game, you know, no matter what the condition is. That's hard. Like whether it's not enough stretch or the collar's hitting you in the wrong way or it keeps coming untucked or whatever it is, like, it's too hot, it sweats, it's showing your sweat. Like all those things come into to play on the performance side. I think on the culture side, I think it's like really like, I think there is instantly a recognition from past sports, you know, like whether you're in you know, a US guy and you're like, oh, I recognize the superstar from back in the day in the NBA and it's a basketball shoe and Run DMC and hip hop culture, or, you know, it's more of a soccer inspired jersey that like, I know that jersey from World Cup or what, you know what I mean? So I think there's so
Hmm.
many pieces of sport that originals plays off that everyone, no matter where they are, can sort of relate to.
Hmm.
So I think we wanted to kind of like make sure that you're feeling you get that instant kind of connection with history, but it's really connecting to yourself and it's kind of about self expression.
Hmm. And I think color plays a big role into that too, because that was the other thing that was very clear when you could see the product next to each other for the first time for a lot of those consumers is what kind of what I was getting my head wrapped around. Like how much does the color story of the originals category
I think,
impact
I
kind of
think
like what you guys do?
yeah, I think it's massive. And, you know, I would say on both sides, like color is a huge topic always. And problem with color, it's somewhat, you know, there's a lot of opinions around color. And sometimes it becomes very
Hmm.
personal, right? Like what somebody likes or doesn't like. But on the original side, what we thought was very important was we wanted to first and foremost bring together a color palette that represented originals. And there's a few colors like the green, that's like a Stan Smith
Yep.
green. The bluebird is like our originals box colorway. So those are colors that are kind of historical and true to the brand that have been there for years. So we wanted to make sure that
Hmm.
we brought those in. And one of the things that those do also is they look sort of like very true to history of sport. You know, they're very sports
Mm.
colors. They're bright but not too bright. You know, they're bold but
They're
not
not
too bold.
neons. Yeah.
They're not neons, yeah, but they're still bright, you know, so you get like
Yep.
this brightness. And then we wanted to layer that in with, you know, our neutrals, our navy and our whites or off white. We want to go off white to help soften it instead of just a pure white. So all the white in there is an off white. And then below that, we wanted to layer in kind of typical or historical golf colors. So you kind of see more of those pastels kind of or lighter colors kind of come in. So that's how we kind of built the palette.
And then was there anything that like from you personally, like either creatively or just personally, like that shifted through the process of bringing that collection to life?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say, especially this first, this first attempt at it. I guess we've played in trefoil before with our collaboration with the Bogey Boys. That was our
Yep.
first kind of entry into apparel world, at least. They kind of already brought a certain aesthetic, so we kind of knew we want to marry that up with sort of our historical pieces that sort of lined up with their kind of aesthetic and ours. Then we did our internal kind of skate collab with the Rolling Links collab.
Mm-hmm.
That wanted to be very true to sort of the skater that golfs. So that sort of drove an aesthetic. With this one, we had to kind of find our way. I would say we were all over the place for a while. We were maybe way too streetwear-y for a while. We were way too more going where Originals inline business is today. Then we got reined it way back in and got way too maybe classic golf. So it took a few kind of attempts on, this is all mostly on paper and pulling different samples and playing around with kind of different silhouettes. And I think we landed in a really good place where coming out of the gates, we wanted people to know that this was Originals, but it was also golf. And I think we kind of hit that nice mix.
Mm-hmm. In that process, was that like a collection of voices saying we're heading too far in any one direction, or is that just like your personal gut telling you we got to rethink this?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, myself and Shaun's team and my team it was mostly amongst our teams. Every once in a while, we would bring in, someone from the Originals team or Jeff Lionheart, the president of golf, just to get their sort of, their gut instinct or what's their initial thought when they see this stuff, that initial kind of quick feeling kind of tells you something. Not that you have to listen to it, but like if someone's feeling uncomfortable and you don't want them to feel uncomfortable on a piece,
Mm-hmm.
if they're feeling uncomfortable and you do want them to feel uncomfortable, and you're like, okay, we're on the right track, so
Mm-hmm.
we kind of had to go back and forth internally. I would say mostly between Shaun's team and my teams that really kind of found the way.
Was there any big differences between the way that you guys showed up on paper and the way that you guys showed up from like a sampling perspective, just knowing that digital assets look and feel don't have that look and feel as like samples do, if you will?
Yeah, for sure. There's, definitely by the time we finally got to, okay, we feel really good on paper, we start going into sampling. There was definitely some tweaks. Like we added some pieces, to help connect sort of what we call kind of our seasonal collection. That's like sort of like the like plaid pant and the Argyle sweater or Argyle pullover versus some of what we call main range is kind of more of our core pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw some gaps between those, maybe the main range being a little bit too classic golf.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we insert some pieces that are still very clean and wearable and make sense on the golf course, but maybe bring a little bit more edge of that lifestyle piece, like the full zip jacket that has the hoodie in the collar. That was kind of a piece that we sort of added in there to kind of connect the two a little bit.
Love that. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's something that I felt, and Shaun kind of mentioned it too, just making sure that it was a holistic collection, like everything was connected. Because again, how you show up, where you show up, it's all connected, just to make sure, especially like when you come out the gate, you want to make sure that sparking conversation is basically what you guys were trying to bring to life 5 years prior when you were originally having those conversations.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's you sort of only get one first impression, right? So you really, there's a lot of pressure to kind of come out of the gates and not be maybe too far ahead of where we should be, but not fall short and be flat either, So there was a lot of back and forth of that. Like, how does this make the statement that we want to make? Does it fit the golfer? Does it fit the lifestyle side of it? And I think we did a pretty good job.
Is there a detail or like a specific garment that when you paused and you're like, this is exactly what we set out to do as a team?
Yeah, I mean, I think I love the simplicity of the track jacket and how comfortable it is. I love that we did it in the seasonal way with the Argyle on the front, but in the main range with just the typical track 3 stripes down the side. I thought those two pieces were kind of critical. I love the the polo and the plaid pant the pocket polo and the plaid pant that we sort of
Mhm.
derived directly from kind of golf history. I thought those pieces came to life and really sort of speak to that era of golf, and really kind of made it that this is truly a golf kind of collection.
Mhm. And we talked a little bit about some of the retro footwear. I actually had like a new segment. It was called the Happy Hour, which we basically deep dive into like a specific trend or like shift that's happening in golf fashion. And talking about like the return of some of the retro footwear in golf, like gazelles and sambas. Like, what do you think these? Why do you think these silhouettes are hitting so hard right now? And like, what does it say about the popularity from a styling perspective where golf is headed?
Yeah, I think golf has long had, history and traditions and uniforms and dress codes. And I think the whole transition of this new consumer coming to the game has helped change it. I think it was already sort of changing slowly, but it helped speed it up. And I think some of the new consumers didn't have some of that either. They didn't have some of that kind of predetermined, like, oh, I got to wear this on a golf course, or even like, I don't have to do anything, so they're bringing
Mhm.
kind of themselves, and that's what people are wearing in the streets today. So that's what they just wanted to wear they didn't want to change themselves just because they were golfing, right? Like, and I
Mhm.
think that brought a whole new sort of openness to what's acceptable on the golf course.
No, for sure. And footwear to me, like, has always felt like the strongest entry point. Just because I'm a footwear guy, so like I just know how big and loud the sneakerhead community is.
Yeah.
And so if you really want to like trigger a conversation just to get an idea of how people are going to react or see what hits certain ways within different like archetypes of consumers, footwear seems to be the easiest and quickest way to trigger those conversations and get reactions out of people.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, footwear is, I would say in many ways, Adidas is sort of a footwear led brand. It's always been kind of the lead horse is footwear. Um, and I think footwear is so powerful. I mean, it makes such a statement. And you can kind of, depending on what you pair it with from your apparel, can either go, real extreme or tone it way down. And footwear
Yep.
can really speak a lot for you.
Mhm. Amazing. The last question that I had that I ask everybody kind of on the way out after we close things down is, what's the story behind the one item in your closet that you'll never get rid of? And what does that item mean to you specifically?
That's a tough one.
It can be golf or golf adjacent. Does it could be either or.
Yeah, I sort of have like my same style, so I kind of tend to wear the same things all the time and just get rid of everything and bring all the new stuff in. But I have a couple pieces from I don't know if you remember when we did Audi Pier a few years ago.
Mm.
Some knit sweaters I still haven't seen anything like them out there. They were the way they were knitted, the quality of knit, and they had water protection and built-in insulation into the knitting himself. I still haven't seen anything like them. So I don't think I'll ever get rid of those. There's certain pieces like that I keep. Um, there's an Audi Cross pant that we did that's like somewhat of like what do you call it? It's a woven pant, but it's like just the perfect weight. Like I can wear that thing on the plane. I wear it on the golf course. Sort of got like
Mm.
a built-in belt, and it's like the most comfortable pant, but somehow doesn't look out of place in the office or on the golf course or on a plane. So those two
Nah,
pieces, yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. But
I'll
yeah,
always keep I'll always keep the original Tour 360 too. Tour 360 is always that's like our icon. So I love the Tour 360.
there you go. Throw in a piece of footwear. Everybody needs a piece of
Yeah,
footwear in the archives.
yeah,
No, this has been awesome. I think what I told Shaun before you jumped on is just I've been an absolute fan of the brand. Obviously, I spent time with Taylor and the team down in Gearhart. That's what I talked to Shaun about. That was like my first time being able to meet the team and just getting a better understanding of where their heads were at because I was super interested in visually how you guys were showing up and from a product standpoint, the things that you guys were doing in the space. And then again, just like how much stuff has changed and how much the brand has evolved is just in the 3 years times has been an absolute roller coaster in the best way. So props to you guys to just to be able to show up continually day after day the right way with the right people at the right time too, which is incredibly difficult to do, especially at your guys' size. So definitely hats off to you guys. I guess the last question I had was, is there anything specifically coming up that you're really excited about, or you think that people should be aware of what's happening either behind the scenes to get ready for?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you very much. I mean, it is difficult being a big machine and being able to kind of stay on top of all these moving parts. To be honest, it's what I love about where the game is right now, and I love about my job is it's golf is going in the spectrum of golfers these days, and where you can take golf is sort of unlimited. And I haven't been in a category ever like that before, so it's been awesome. Plus, I love golf, so it helps with that.
All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe button and drop us a quick review. It helps us keep the conversation going and growing. For more golf fashion, follow us over at Skratch and Golf Projects. We're always serving up style and stories that make this game what it is. And if you're hungry for even more, head over to Skratch.golf, where our collective stories live. Until next time, dress well and play fast. Peace.